Welcome back to Guns Gear Network, everyone. Appreciate everyone tuning in this afternoon. Let's talk water storage. I just recently did a video about water filtration, and I highlighted and reviewed a Life Straw water filter. And I talked about storing water and all that, so I wanted to do a video dedicated on water storage and kind of my thoughts on it. And there's lots of videos on YouTube around about water storage, but I wanted to show you my recommendations, and because I've seen a lot people showing videos of their water supplies, and they have a bunch of cases of bottled water and things like that. Nothing wrong with that, because there's a lot of people out here that have no water stored, and anybody that's storing water in any capacity is ahead of a lot of people. So what prompted this video, I was talking to a gentleman today and just talking about things in general and this, that, and the other, and the topic of water came up, and food and all this, and how much food you have in your house. And I asked one of the guys, I said, because he was kind of laughing at us about what we were talking about, because he came up a little in the middle of the conversation. What are you guys talking about? And I said, we're talking about how to survive the zombie apocalypse. And he laughed and so forth. And I said, well, how much food do you have in your house? Like, if you couldn't get out anywhere, how much food do you have? You had to hunker down in your house, grid down, you just whatever, you couldn't go anywhere. He said 2, maybe 3 weeks. And he said that's a maybe. He said it depends on. He said I may be down to a week before I go out and buy. Obviously, he's not a quote unquote prepper, so he just basically relies on what's in his house on the pantry shelves, in his cabinets. So I know he has no water stored. So you get into a situation where if you have one of those type grid down situations and you can't get anywhere, or the water stops flowing, you got to have some means of having water. Again, we talk about this all the time in prepping and survival and things, that you've basically got 3 days and dehydration starts setting in and you cause some major medical problems. So one of the cheapest things out there is to go and find one of these pickle buckets. I found these off Craigslist, and this is just kind of showing you kind of one of my setups here that I have. And each of these are 55-gallon drums, and they're full of water. Simple tap water, no chlorine, no nothing, because I don't feel like it's already treated water because it came out of my tap. And we have a water treatment plant here, and they put those type things, and I think they even put fluoride in our water. So it's already treated. So what I'm going to do is I'll either rotate these water jugs and things out periodically, and I do. Matter of fact, that's kind of what prompted this whole water thing. A few days ago, I drained all this water out and started over. It'd been sitting here for a few years. So I just wanted to start fresh. And I promise you that the water that was in it was probably drinkable. I didn't see any bacteria growth, anything like that. But even so, let's say you're kind of lazy, but you did go ahead and get the jugs or the barrels filled with water, and it's been 5 or 6 years and there's a little bit of moldy type bacteria in it. Again, we can use our water filtration systems. At least I know where this water came from, and I know it's a lot safer potentially than trying to get it out of a pond, lake, stream, things like that. So I have, just in this little pitcher here, and I've got more water than this, but in this shot here, I have basically 110 gallons of water. Okay, so there's 55-gallon drums times 2. And one of the things I do is I put them on pallets. Now, I've got a basement, so it's easy for me to put them on pallets, 2 at a time, and then I can roll it around with a pallet jack. But the cheapest way to store water, in my opinion, is to buy one of these, even if you just bought one 55-gallon drum, and that's it. And it's about $20. You shouldn't pay more than about $20, $25 for these. And they're pickle buckets. They transport pickles in these buckets to the factories for processing cucumbers. So what you'll need to do is clean it out real good, rinse it out. I usually use a Clorox solution, get it washed out really good, Cloroxed out, then I'll leave it sitting in the sun for a couple days, let some of that dissipate out, air out, and so forth, and then I'll go back and Clorox, rinse it again, do that for a couple days, and you should be fine. If it has a slight odor of, now I mean very slight, of either pickles and or Clorox, you still should be fine, but try getting all that out. You can leave it in the sun, that'll help evaporate some of that out, so forth, but try getting as clean as possible. Fill it up with water. A lot of people get wrapped around the axle about using your garden hose. Now, water safe or food safe hose is the recommended, but if you don't want to go buy another hose, I drank gallons and gallons of water out of a water hose when I was a kid, and I'm fine. So if the only thing you've got is just a garden hose, use it. Don't worry about it, no big deal. In a grid down, crap hits the fan situation, I'm not worried about drinking water out of a garden hose that came from a garden hose. So with that said, you're also going to need, I'm not going to be able to come down here and get the, I like to have it where I can transport it into something smaller. So what I recommend is getting some dedicated water containers similar to this, and that way I can take some water out of this, put it into this, then I can move it in the house, whether it be to the bathroom, for bathing. I can use it in the kitchen. I can move this around and buy you quite a few of these. And matter of fact, you can keep these full, so you've got 55 gallons, plus these are 5 gallons, and just go ahead and keep these full at all times. If you don't want to keep them full, that's fine. But you're going to need a way to get it out of here. And what I recommend, this has been talked about on numerous channels, videos have been done about the super siphon. Obviously, do not dedicate one for water and that's all. And don't go cheap on the super siphon. This part here on the super siphons is pretty easy to mimic, but what the cheaper ones found at Harbor Freight as an example, and I've got one of them, the hose is very thin walled, so it collapses on itself. This is very stiff, and when it collapses on itself, it doesn't pull water through it as good because it cuts down the volume that's going through. So I don't recommend those. I recommend just go ahead and spend a little extra money and get the super siphons. Another cheap method, if you're a drinker of sodas, 2-liter bottles, usually a lot of times you can find those free. People just ask your neighbors or somebody to keep them for you if they're soda drinkers, if you're not. These are obviously water safe. Just rinse them out real good. You don't even have to use Clorox. Just rinse them out with some hot water and then fill them back up with water. Put the lid on. You can find these. These are the 5-gallon water jugs. Usually you can find those pretty cheap or free around. Some people turn them into, if their office uses them at their work or something, a lot of times they turn them in as a recyclable, but usually you can find those for a few bucks too. So something like this, I don't like this as near as much as go ahead and buying something like this. It's got a dedicated water, it's got the spigot on it that I can cut on and off. So something like that is kind of what I recommend. But guys, if you're out trying to collect just water only in the bottled water, that's fine. It just gets expensive, and I know you can buy the cheaper bottled water for 2 or 3, about probably 18 to 20 cents a bottle, maybe even a little cheaper than that, some of the generic brands. But at the end of the day, I don't want to sit there and have a bunch of plastic bottles that I'm having to dump out to do dishes or take a bird bath or something like that. I like this method a little better. Again, not saying anything wrong with that if that's all you can do. Even in a small apartment living, smaller homes and stuff, try, if you can, dedicate to have room for one of these. Surely you've got a garage, you've got somewhere where you can put one of these. Now, if you do that, if you're on a second story, be careful with these because you're dealing with 55 gallons, and 55 gallons times, usually it's about 8, I think it's 8 pounds per gallon. So you're talking over 400 pounds with one of these, and that gets pretty heavy. So be careful you're not getting into structural issues with flooring. But most of the time, 400 pounds is not that, a little over 400 pounds, but it's not that big a deal. So keep that in mind. But anyway, guys, I don't care how many bullets and Band-Aids and beans you got, you better have some water. So they talk about beans, bullets, and Band-Aids. Well, some people classify beans in with water, I guess. But in my opinion, water should be as top priority or higher priority than bullets and Band-Aids. Because if I'm just hunkered down and not, I'm not getting into anything, but I'm just trying to lay low and just stay out of sight and, you know, not in anybody's way and nobody's bothering me, I could still dehydrate and die. So what good did it do me having a bunch of beans and bullets? So you've got to have water. It's one of the cheapest resources. People talk about prepping's expensive. Well, water is pretty cheap by the gallon, no matter if it's coming out of your, especially if it's coming out of your spigot. So there's no reason why you can't store it. Now there's another option that I'll mention briefly, and I'll tell you why I'm not a fan of it. It's called a, I think it's called a bob or something along those lines. It's a water bladder that fits inside of your tub, your bathtub, and it holds whatever it holds. It's probably 30 or 40 gallons at least, maybe even as high as 50 or 60 gallons. I don't know, I hadn't researched it 100%. And they're designed for emergencies. Well, you're not going to obviously keep this in your tub full all the time. So in my opinion, it is a situation where you have to know something is getting ready to happen, that the water would stop running at your home, and then you're going to go fill it up real quick and hope you made it. That's the reason I don't like those. I'm not saying they're a terrible idea for what you pay for them, because I don't think they're super expensive, but to me it's just not a plan. Now, here's my thing. If I know and I have warning that something's getting ready to happen, could be a storm, could be whatever, and I've got enough warning, then yes, I may go fill up every bathtub I got, fill up every sink I got before it happens, and I still got water that can be used for other things, whether it be, you know, just taking a bath with or whatever, because it's in your bathtub. You can use it for something, especially if you can purify it or clean it. So keep that in mind. You can use your bathtub. I just not a fan of the water bladders that fit in there. That's supposed to keep the water clean and all, and you're supposed to be able to use it, because again, you have to have so much notice to know that something's going to happen and you need to fill that thing up before it happens. So I'm not a big fan of those, but they are out there. So anyway, guys, dedicate an area of your home somewhere to at least get one 55-gallon drum of water. The rule is around 5 gallons per person per day for, you know, basic hygiene, cooking, things like that, obviously drinking water. So around 5 gallons per day per person, so it adds up quickly, especially if you've got a family of, you know, 4. So keep that in mind, and, you know, having some water on hand is fine, but you need quite a bit of water on hand. And you know, there's other options where you could turn this into a potential rain barrel and things like that, where it's hooked into your gutter system, even in a small home. That way you can keep it outside and it stays full by rain method. So that's another option for you too, so keep that in mind. Whether you use it any other thing, because a lot of rain barrels are designed, people use them for watering flowers and plants and things like that. But if you just want to use that as a backup, that would be appropriate too. So anyway, guys, appreciate you tuning in. Again, make sure you have your water source available to you that can get you by for at least about 30 days is my, you know, what I recommend. So anyway, guys, appreciate you tuning in. If you got any questions, post those below. If you got any comments or any suggestions, be glad to have that comment below. We'd like to discuss that with you. If you like our videos, give us that thumbs up. That's always helpful and appreciative. If you would share our videos on your content, you know, our content on forums that you participate on, social media, that sort of stuff, that's always appreciated also. And as always, guys, like, share, and subscribe, and we'll be bringing another video shortly. Have a great day, guys.